Hi, welcome to my channel. This is a video about veganism. This video is divided into 3 parts. You are watching part 1 of the video. In this video, we are discussing what veganism is and why people choose a vegan lifestyle. I hope you will like it. So let's get started. What is veganism? A lifestyle that avoids all animal foods such as meat, dairy, eggs, and honey, animal-derived products like leather, and, as far as possible, products tested on animals. According to the Vegan Society, veganism is a philosophy and way of living which seeks to exclude, as far as is possible and practicable, all forms of exploitation of, and cruelty to, animals for food, clothing or any other purpose, and by extension, promotes the development and use of animal-free alternatives for the benefit of animals, humans, and the environment. In dietary terms, it denotes the practice of dispensing with all products derived wholly or partly from animals. Veganism, the natural extension of vegetarianism, is an integral component of a true cruelty-free lifestyle. Living vegan provides numerous benefits to animals' lives, to the environment, and to our own health through a healthy diet and lifestyle. Vegans choose not to support animal exploitation in any form and so avoid visiting zoos or aquariums, or taking part in dog or horse racing. A great alternative is visiting and supporting animal sanctuaries that provide safe and loving homes for rescued animals. Veganism is a lifestyle that excludes all animal products and attempts to limit animal cruelty and exploitation as much as possible. Why do people go vegan? People generally choose to avoid animal products for one or more of the following reasons. Ethics. Ethical vegans strongly believe that all creatures have a right to life and freedom. They view all animals as conscious beings that, just like humans, wish to avoid pain and suffering. Because of this, ethical vegans are opposed to killing an animal in order to eat its flesh or wear its fur or skin. Vegans are also opposed to the psychological and physical stress that animals may endure as a result of modern farming practices. For instance, the small pens or cages that animals typically live in and rarely leave between their birth and slaughter. However, for ethical vegans, this sentiment extends beyond the cruelty of modern farming practices. That's because vegans are opposed to consuming products that heavily rely on the killing of other animals, especially because alternatives are available. This includes the slaughter of calves that are considered surplus in the dairy industry, or the culling of one-day-old male chicks that is common in egg production. Moreover, ethical vegans generally believe that animals' milk, eggs, honey, silk, and wool are not for humans to exploit, regardless of the living conditions afforded to the exploited animals. This is why ethical vegans remain opposed to drinking an animal's milk, eating its eggs, or wearing its wool, even in cases where the animals are free-roaming or pasture-fed. Health. Some people choose a vegan diet for its potential health benefits. Diets high in meat, especially red meat, have been linked to cancer, heart disease, and type 2 diabetes. On the other hand, plant-based diets have been linked to a lower risk of developing or prematurely dying from these diseases. Lowering your intake of animal products in favor of more plant-based options may also improve your digestion and reduce your risk of Alzheimer's disease. A vegan diet can also help minimize the side effects linked to the antibiotics and hormones used in modern animal agriculture. Finally, vegan diets appear to be especially effective at helping people lose unwanted weight. Several studies link a vegan diet to a lower likelihood of obesity. However, if you're on a vegan diet, you may consume less of certain nutrients. That's why planning is especially important. With planning, a vegan diet can provide all the nutrients we need without any animal products. Environment. People may also choose to avoid animal products in an attempt to limit their environmental impact. According to recent data, animal agriculture heavily contributes to greenhouse gas emissions, which cause climate change. Meat eaters are thought to be responsible for 2 to 2.5 times more greenhouse gas emissions than people following a vegan diet. This number is based on self-reported dietary patterns in the UK. Ruminant animals, such as cattle, sheep, and goats, appear to emit the largest amount of greenhouse gases per gram of protein they deliver. Therefore, diets that reduce or eliminate dairy also produce significantly fewer greenhouse gas emissions. One study suggests that a vegetarian diet produces 33% fewer greenhouse gas emissions than a meat-containing standard American diet offering the same amount of calories. A vegan diet has an even smaller environmental impact, producing about 53% fewer greenhouse gas emissions than a calorie-matched meat-containing diet. A large proportion of the plant protein currently being produced is used to feed animals rather than humans. Because of this, the production of an animal-heavy diet requires the use of more of the Earth's resources than the production of a plant-based diet. For instance, producing animal protein requires 6 to 17 times more land than the same amount of soybean protein. Animal protein also requires, on average, 2 to 3 times more water, depending on factors such as the season and annual fluctuations in rainfall. Because of all of these factors, experts estimate that, if nothing changes, our food system will likely exceed our planet's resources by the year 2050. Switching over to a vegan diet may be one way to delay this outcome. Speciesism. Speciesism, in applied ethics and the philosophy of animal rights, is treating members of one species as morally more important than members of other species. Also, the belief that this practice is justified. The term speciesism was introduced by the English philosopher Richard Ryder in the 1970s and popularized by the Australian philosopher Peter Singer. Ryder, Singer, and other opponents of speciesism have claimed that it is exactly analogous to racism, sexism, and other forms of irrational discrimination and prejudice. Meat and dairy production. The world now produces more than 3 times the quantity of meat as it did 50 years ago. In 2018, production was around 340 million tons. Pig meat is the most popular meat globally, but the production of poultry is increasing rapidly. 80 billion animals are slaughtered each year for meat. The average person in the world consumed around 43 kilograms of meat in 2014. This ranges from over 100 kilograms in the US and Australia to only 5 kilograms in India. Meat consumption increases as the world is getting richer. The world now produces around 800 million tons of milk each year, more than double the amount 50 years ago. Richer countries tend to consume more milk per person. The amount of meat produced for a given animal varies significantly across the world based on production systems. Livestock production has large environmental impacts on greenhouse gas emissions, land and water use. Beef and lamb have much larger environmental impact than pig meat and poultry. Meat production across the world. The left side chart shows global meat production by region, measured in tons. Regionally, Asia is the largest meat producer, accounting for around 40 to 45% of total meat production. Total 337.18 million tons, Asia 134.96 million tons. The right side chart shows meat production by country. China 75.37 million tons, United States 48.71 million tons, India 7.48 million tons, United Kingdom 4.17 million tons. Meat production by animal. In the chart, we see how meat production has changed by livestock type since 1961. At a global level, we see that the dominant livestock types are poultry, cattle, which includes beef and buffalo meat, pig, and sheep and goat to a lesser extent. However, the distribution of meat types varies significantly across the world. In some countries, other meat types such as wild game, horse, and duck can account for a significant share of total production. Although production of all major meat types have been increasing in absolute terms, in relative terms the share of global meat types have changed significantly over the last 50 years. In 1961, poultry meat accounted for only 12% of global meat production. By 2013 its share has approximately tripled to around 35%. In comparison, beef and buffalo meat as a share of total meat production has nearly halved, now accounting for around 22%. Pig meat's share has remained more constant at approximately 35 to 40%. Beef and buffalo, cattle, meat production. In the chart we see the global production of cattle, beef and buffalo meat. Globally, cattle meat production has more than doubled since 1961, increasing from 28 million tons per year to 68 million tons in 2014. The United States is the world's largest beef and buffalo meat producer, producing 11 to 12 million tons in 2014. Other major producers are Brazil and China, followed by Argentina, Australia and India. Poultry production. Global production of poultry meat has increased rapidly over the last 50 years, growing more than 12-fold between 1961 to 2014. Global trends in poultry production are shown in the chart. Like cattle production, the United States is the world's largest producer, producing more than 20 million tons in 2014. China and Brazil are also large poultry producers at 18 and 13 million tons, respectively. Collectively, Europe is also a major poultry producer with an output in 2014 of approximately 19 million tons, just below output of the United States. In 2020, US produced 23.15 million ton, Europe 22.36 million ton, China 21.28 million ton, Brazil 14.38 million ton, India 3.60 million ton, as per the data shown in graph. How many chickens are killed each year? In the US alone, over 8 billion chickens are killed every year by the food industry. Worldwide, estimates suggest more than 70 billion chickens are killed each year, not including chickens killed by the egg industry. Broiler chickens, chickens raised for their meat, are bred to gain weight at a rapid pace so they can be slaughtered at around 6 weeks old. The selective breeding used by the industry also causes chickens painful and debilitating health problems. The industry kills vast numbers of birds at a time, prioritizing efficiency over the welfare of the animals. Male chicks born in egg industry settings are victims of animal agriculture. Just hours after hatching, chicks in the egg industry are separated by sex, with at least 7 billion male chicks immediately sent to their death each year. Typically, they are either suffocated, decapitated, crushed, or electrocuted at several hours old. Chick culling. Chick culling or unwanted chick killing is the process of separating and killing unwanted, male and unhealthy female chicks for which the intensive animal farming industry has no use. It occurs in all industrialized egg production, whether free-range, organic, or battery cage. Worldwide, around 7 billion male chicks are culled each year in the egg industry. Because male chickens do not lay eggs and only those in breeding programs are required to fertilize eggs, they are considered redundant to the egg-laying industry and are usually killed shortly after being sexed, which occurs just days after they are conceived or after they hatch. Animals killed each year. How many cows are killed each year? In the US, 33 million cows are killed every year, with global numbers of cows killed reaching 300 million. This includes beef cattle, male dairy calves and female dairy cows deemed by farms to be no longer productive. How many pigs are killed each year? Pigs are another species of animal also killed in their millions for human food production. Each year in the US, over 130 million pigs are slaughtered. In 2020, 1.5 billion pigs around the world were killed for their meat. How many fish are killed each year? The number of fish killed each year is difficult to quantify because instead of being counted as individuals, fish are counted by their collective weight. What we do know is that many billions of aquatic animals are slaughtered for food every year. How many animals are killed each year? Over the last 50 years, global demand for meat has tripled. We currently produce around 340 million metric tons of meat each year, which is equal to over 70 billion land animals. What types of meat do people eat? As a global average, per capita consumption of pig meat is the highest of meat commodities. In 2013, the average person consumed around 16 kilograms of pig meat, followed by 15 kilograms of poultry, 9 kilograms of beef, buffalo meat, 2 kilograms of mutton and goat, and only a fraction of other meat types. Consumption trends vary significantly across the world. In China, pig meat accounts for around 2/3 of per capita meat consumption. In Argentina, beef and buffalo meat dominates, accounting for more than half of consumption. New Zealanders have a much stronger preference for mutton and goat meat relative to the global average. In the charts here we see the per capita consumption of different meat types by country. Milk production across the world. In 2020, world produced 886.86 million tons of milk, India 183.96 million tons, United States 101.28 million tons, Pakistan 60.77 million tons, Africa 51.08 million tons, China 38.77 million tons, Australia 8.80 million tons, Bangladesh 3.58 million tons, as per the data shown in graph. Egg production and consumption. In 2020, world produced 92.97 million tons of egg, China 34.68 million tons, United States 6.61 million tons, India 6.29 million tons, Brazil 3.44 million tons, Mexico 3.02 million tons, as per the data shown in graph. Efficiency of meat production. Feed conversion ratio, FCR, is used to measure the mass quantity of feed required to produce 1 kilogram of animal product, that is meat. For example, on average, we have to feed cattle 25 kilograms of feed to produce 1 kilogram of beef or buffalo meat. This would give us an FCR value of 0.04, calculated as output, 1 kilogram, input, 25 kilograms. Protein and energy efficiency are calculated as the quantity of protein, energy in animal feed which is effectively converted into protein, energy in the resultant animal products. For example, if we feed a chicken 500 grams of protein and only get 100 grams out in chicken meat, we define this protein conversion efficiency as 20%, calculated as output, 100 grams, input, 500 grams. The same calculation process applies for energy conversion efficiency using caloric inputs and outputs. Number of animals slaughtered. This is shown across various types of livestock. Here these figures represent the total number slaughtered for meat production, which does not include those used primarily for dairy or egg production, which are not eventually used for meat. In 2018, an estimated 69 billion chickens, 1.5 billion pigs, 656 million turkeys, 574 million sheep, 479 million goats, and 302 million cattle were killed for meat production. Global meat production and consumption. Pork has the highest global consumption, followed by poultry, beef, and mutton. Poultry is the fastest growing sector in the meat industry, reflecting an increase of 4.7% in 2010 to 98 million tons. On average, people in developing countries consume 32 kilograms of meat a year, while people in developed countries consume an average of 80 kilograms of meat per person per year. Global annual meat consumption per capita was 41.9 kilograms in 2010. 70% of the 880 million poor people living in rural areas who survive on less than $1 per day depend on livestock for their livelihood and/or food security either in part or in full. It is anticipated that demand for meat derived from livestock will almost double in sub-Saharan Africa and South Asia, rising from 200 kilocalories per person per day in 2000 to around 400 kilocalories in 2050. Approximately 23% of all water resources used in agriculture are used to water farmed livestock, which equates to 1.15 liters of water per person per day. Livestock production is responsible for approximately 18% of anthropogenic greenhouse gas emissions, with 40% of global methane and 65% of global nitrous oxide stemming from farmed livestock. 75% of all antibiotics administered to livestock are not fully metabolized within the animal system but are instead excreted in animal waste, where it poses a significant risk to human health. It is estimated that male mortality can be reduced by 11% and female mortality reduced by 16% if meat eaters reduced their meat consumption to the equivalent of that of the group that consumed the lowest amount of meat. Total seafood production by country. The world produces around 200 million tons of fish and seafood every year. This comes from a combination of wild fish catch and fish farming. The rapid growth of aquaculture over the last few decades means we now produce more seafood from fish farms than we do from fisheries. China is the world's largest seafood producer, producing more than 60 million tons in 2019. This is followed by Indonesia, India, Vietnam, and the United States. In 2019, world produced 171.09 million tons of fish and seafood, China 62.20 million tons, Indonesia 12.84 million tons, India 11.61 million tons, Vietnam 7.10 million tons, United States 5.48 million tons, Peru 4.26 million tons, Bangladesh 4.13 million tons, Japan 3.82 million tons, as per the data shown in graph. Fishing methods and gear types. A range of gears are used in commercial fishing. Every type of gear has some effect on the ocean environment. Pole and line, long line, and gill net methods are more common in lower income countries where much of the fishing activity is subsistence or small scale. Purse seine and trawling methods are more common in industrial fishing practices. These tend to catch more fish per unit of effort. But the downside is that they tend to have larger negative impacts, with more bycatch, catch of fish that are not the target species, and in some cases, damage to the seabed. Globally, bottom trawling is the most common method, accounting for 1/4 of fish catch. Pelagic, midwater, trawling accounts for an additional 10%. This means all types of trawling account for just over 1/3 of global fish catch. Purse seine is the second most common method, accounting for just over 20% of catch. Gill nets and long lines account for much less of global fish catch. This is partly a result of the fact that they achieve less catch per landing than methods such as trawling or purse seine. Bycatch. Wherever there is fishing, there is bycatch, the incidental capture of non-target species such as dolphins, marine turtles, and seabirds. Thousands of miles of nets and lines are set in the world's oceans each day. Modern fishing gear, often undetectable by sight and extremely strong, is very efficient at catching the desired fish species, as well as anything else in its path. A staggering amount of marine life, including turtles, dolphins, and juvenile fish, is hauled up with the catch, and then discarded overboard dead or dying. Fishing gear is largely non-selective. Any species can be caught, including non-target species. Long lines, trawling and the use of gill nets are the fishing methods that most commonly result in bycatch. With trawling, boats drag large nets along the seabed, catching almost everything in their path. They can damage coral reefs and at shallow depths, catch marine turtles. Gill nets are mesh nets that allow fish to pass their heads and gill coverings through a hole in the mesh and then get stuck when they try to back out. They can be several miles long and up to 100 feet deep. Bycatch occurs because the nets also trap everything larger than the net's mesh, which includes juvenile fish, sharks, seabirds, marine turtles, and cetaceans, whales, dolphins, porpoises. The nets are very hard to see, blending in perfectly with the water and difficult for cetaceans to detect by echolocation. Gill nets that are lost at sea are rarely recovered and can continue to capture marine animals for many years. It is estimated that over 300,000 small whales, dolphins, and porpoises die from entanglement in fishing nets each year, making this the single largest cause of mortality for small cetaceans. Species such as the vaquita from the Gulf of California and Maui's dolphin from New Zealand face extinction if the threat of unselective fishing gear is not eliminated. The ocean will be empty by 2048. Seaspiracy claims that fishing takes 2.7 trillion fish from oceans globally each year. If this rate of fishing continues, the oceans will be virtually empty by 2048, according to marine biologist Dr. Sylvia Alice Earle. I realized the single best thing I could do every single day to protect the ocean and the marine life I loved, is to simply not eat them. Ali Tabrizi, Seaspiracy director. Here are some facts from the documentary, Seaspiracy. 46% of the Great Pacific Garbage Patch comprises fishing nets. Only 5% of the world's oceans are marine protected areas. 38% of global mangrove deforestation is caused by shrimp farming. 6 out of 7 sea turtle species are either threatened or endangered due to fishing. The ocean is the biggest carbon sink on the planet. The equivalent of a garbage truck load of plastic is dumped in the sea every minute. This has resulted in over 150 million tons of plastic floating in the sea. Scientists predict that 90% of the world's coral reefs will die by 2050. Commercial fishing is a greater threat to marine life than we realize. Fish farming creates massive amounts of waste. Sharks kill 12 people a year. But humans kill 11,000 to 30,000 sharks per hour. Plastic straws account for just 0.03% of ocean plastic. The fishing industry gets $35 billion in subsidies a year. Thanks for watching. If you like the video, please subscribe to my channel and share the video. Also, you can watch my other videos.